Hi BookTube, it's Amy and I'm back again reading from The Anatomy of Bibliomania by Holbrook Jackson. We're on page 239 in today's video with a section titled The Association of Books and Place. And there is a playlist here on my channel if you are enjoying this and want to check out the video series from the very beginning of the book. I think we've got somewhere in the range of upwards of 40, maybe even 50 videos at this point, because I'm going section by section, and we'll continue on until the completion of the book. So here we are on page 239 with the Association of Book and Place. Many there are of the more romantic sort that seek to read their favorite authors under particular circumstances or in places associated with the theme of the book or with its writing. Thus they will take out Dante at Florence, Shakespeare at Stratford, Rabelais at Chinon, Gibbon among the ruins of the Forum at Rome where he first imagined his mighty history, or at Lausanne where he wrote it. Wordsworth at Grasmere or Rydal, Keats at Hampstead, Dickens at Rochester or in Lincoln's Inn Fields, Lamb in the sparrow-haunted quadrangle of the Temple, Goethe at Weimar, Rousseau at the islet the islet which bears his name at Geneva, Emerson at Concord, Thoreau beside Walden Pond, Tennyson where he lived at Freshwater Down, Meredith on Box Hill in Surrey, where he loved to breast the southwest wind, Byron at Venice, and Shelley on the shores of the Bay of Spezia, where his body was burnt after the sea had given it up. To read Wordsworth on Westminster Bridge, Browning in Venice, Omar Khayyam at Nashapur, Gray in the meadows at Eton, Matthew Arnold on Cumnor Hill or beside the stripling Thames at Bablock Hythe, William Morris at Kelmscott, Anatole France on the Quai Voltaire, Yeats at Coole, Rupert Brooke at Grantchester, Henry Newbolt on Plymouth Hole, Belloc on the Sussex Downs, Lionel Johnson at Winchester, Richard Le Gallienne in the Strand, John Davidson in Fleet Street, Ernest Downson in Soho, Austin Dobson in Queen Anne's Gate, Walt Whitman on Fish-Shaped Pamonook, or Kipling in Simla. These are accounted experiences. Some are for historic spots, and are brisk to read them to themselves or aloud amid the ruins of Pompeii, and in the portico of the Parthenon at Athens, or in the shadows of the baths at Carcalla at Rome, on the pyramids of Egypt, or besides the great Sphinx in York Minster, Notre Dame of Paris, St. Peter's at Rome, Monreale near Palermo, in the Teatro Greco at Syracuse, or Taormina, etc. For Macaulay, journeys to famous places were excuses for reading books about them. Thus, in Italy, his journey lay over the field of Thrasymene, and as soon as the sun rose, he read Livy's description of the scene, wishing he had brought Polybius too. Samuel Rogers and his sister read the concluding passages of The Decline and Fall in the very spot where they were written, and Malcolm Macmillan lay down against a fragment in the Forum and read Horace to a friend who was making architectural notes. William Beckford, on his journey to Portugal, proposed to read his favorite pocket companions, Montenero, Manuel Maria Bocage, in a little cavern hewn out of pumice rock, blessed with a little spring and mantled all over with the deliciously scented flowers of the Lonicera tribe in wild profusion, exactly the sort of grotto described by Gil Blas as the resort of Algerian pirates. He longed to read in total solitude and thus share the deep reveries of his intellectual and Cowley-like poets, but fate denied him such a dreamy happiness. And our footnote number 4 is pointing us to excursion to the monasteries of El Kobaka and Betala. For my part, I am not so romantically affected in my choice of reading places. I can read anywhere, but am not indifferent to that genius loci which is not in the place itself, but is brought there by recollection, experience, association. A sunset touch, a fancy from a flower bell, someone's death, a chorus ending from Euripides. George Wyndham was moved by such feelings, and he left to Charles Gaddy a legacy of places glorified by such experiences. The end of the garden at Derwent, where he read to me Patmore's Odes to the Blessed Virgin. The smoking room at Derwent, where he and Alfred Littleton and myself chose passages in turn from a Globe Shakespeare. And I read the Duke of Exeter's description to the King of the death of York and Suffolk on the field of Agincourt. Our footnote pointing us to Charles T. Gaddy's George Wyndham Recognitia. There are those that are especially affected as much and more from the reading of books in particular places, for it cuts both ways. One would read a passage of a whole work in the place of its inspiration. Another will read a book in some place not associated with its authorship or its theme, and ever afterwards hold that place in memory as the scene of a capital experience. The sum is this, that varieties of association are excellent good for books as well as bookmen. And that brings us to the end of that section there on page 241. But I definitely seem to be the sort who connects a book with a place in the fact that I read it there, rather than the other way around. In fact, I don't think I've ever, purposely taken a book with me somewhere, knowing that there's an association with the author or with the setting. In rare instances, being in Canada, where I've read a book that was set in the place that I was at, it was pure coincidence. I've read one or two books where the setting is Ottawa. Never ever read a book set in the small corner of Ontario where I grew up. But I'm also not the sort to have taken great international travel, so I can't say, I've ever gone to Paris and picked up a movable feast while I'm there or anything like that. I'm not saying that I would, rule out that idea, but I've just never done it, and I'm not sure it's something I would intentionally set out to do. But I've seen, I think it was just yesterday I saw a booktube video, someone here on YouTube who was reading some of the romantic poets, and she was taking a holiday to a place where a number of the romantic poets had spent some time over the course of a summer, and she was taking the time to read some of those works in that very place. But we'll pop the bookmark in for today. Our next section here is titled Various Readers and Their Reading Places. So I think we're about to get a little bit more specific on the topic of places in which a reader can read. But we'll end it at that for today.